We interrupt your regular scheduled program to bring you a special episode of the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
Hey, Cubby, how's it going?
It's going great, Skip. How are you?
It feels weird for me to start the conversation. I think we've done 24 episodes, and in every single one, you started the conversation.
We may have had one where I think you might have started it, but actually, I'm comfortable with it, so it's good.
It's good. So we're gonna do a special episode tonight. The trade deadline in the NHL just finished.
Yes,
a couple of hours ago. And I mean, I tried to follow it as much as I could during the day, although like regular people, you know, we both have jobs. Mm-hmm. So I literally had the radio on the whole day, hearing the trades as they were coming in. And, you know, it was a super busy day for the Habs, so they had a lot to talk about. But
the radio, you know, it's funny. Not many people actually listen to the radio.
Well, I listen to the virtual radio, right? I listen to the, you know, it's through my phone on the iHeartRadio app.
Okay.
If they want to be a sponsor, we could accept that.
I love it.
So, the Habs were busy, but they had a lot to talk about on the local radio. But, you know, I turned on the TV at 8 o'clock this morning, and they already had the panel on both channels. You know, TSN had 5 guys sitting at the desk. They had Bob McKenzie in his little cave behind them, and they had another guy in the other side, and they're like ready to report all the breaking news, which literally never came.
You know, you mentioned the panel, so I have to tell you something. I woke up this morning to listening to the new Elliot Price sports show on the Fan 590.
Yeah, how was it?
It was fine. I mean, he's been on since Monday.
Okay.
And they had as one of their guests on the show this morning, Ilya Bryzgalov, who was on the panel on Sportsnet.
Okay.
So today was the day that I found out that Ilya Bryzgalov is no longer playing in the NHL.
I thought for sure he was on somewhere.
I thought so too.
Or he's in the KHL, or he's somewhere, right? He's really retired, I guess.
Apparently he's retired, and I didn't know this until 12 hours ago.
Well, sometimes, you know, we learn just by listening to the radio or watching TV.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were gearing up for a busy day. There wasn't many trades. I think there was 17 trades in all. Almost half of them were just minor leaguers and draft choices with inconsequential players. All the big targets that we've been hearing about for last month, you know, Landeskog, Duchesne, Evander Kane, whoever, none of those guys moved. There was really almost no players of consequence that moved. All the teams kind of tinkered with their lineups, and I thought we would just go over all the trades. We'll do it chronological,
right.
And we'll just try to do rapid fire reaction from the both of us on all these moves and see what we think. You know, good, bad, ugly, whatever. You know,
we'll each spend about 4 seconds on each trade.
Which is the extent of our knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the actual trade deadline, there was a lot of trades that happened before the trade deadline, days before, and the real first trade that kind of started it was the Patrick Eves. You know, the Ducks got him for a second-round pick, which, you know, this is going to be the theme of our whole conversation, right? Teams are giving up, and they traded away their UFAs for almost nothing, right? So a second round pick actually is pretty high, you know, because Eves is not a second round pick player. But if the Ducks think that Patrick Eves is going to get them over the top, well, good luck to them.
Right. I mean, this is a clear indication that Anaheim is buyers, or are buyers, and Dallas are sellers. And second round pick, you know,
it's usually
except that Anaheim is going to finish relatively high in the standings. So that's a late second round pick.
Yeah. Well, look,
so it's not that great.
Yeah. Teams had to
Patrick Eves isn't that great either.
Right. Teams had to weigh, you know, what do they think it's going to do for them? And there's only one team among this whole day that we're going to talk about that I really feel has no clue what they're doing. And we'll get to them in a second.
Okay.
The next big trade, actually, which I think, you know, I love it because they talk about this for months leading up to it. These are the trade targets. These are each network has their top 10 or their top 20, like
trade bait.
So all of a sudden, you know, Ben Bishop basically gets traded for Peter Budaj, and like nobody saw that coming, right?
I didn't see it coming.
Well,
I have to tell you that when I first saw this, I didn't understand this trade for either team.
I still don't.
Well, because the Kings just got their number one goalie back, so I don't know why they need a second goalie.
And let me tell you something, Budaj's better than Bishop. Not
Well,
not in a
that's
totality, but this year Budai's been fantastic for them. The Kings are not in a bad situation because Budai's been playing badly. Their Kings can't score goals.
The other thing I didn't understand is why is Tampa giving up on Ben Bishop, who was one of the major reasons why they've gone far in the playoffs?
They know they're not signing him.
Years.
Yeah, they know they're not signing him. He's a UFA. They're going with their young goalie, the Russian, and I guess they figured they're going to get something for him, which they got a bunch of picks, right? So
the only way I can explain this, because this leads to the question I asked you on our last episode. They're just basically giving up on the fact that they can re-sign Ben Bishop. Why would you give up on that? I mean, it's not like he's old.
No, but I think they don't want to re-sign him. They want a cheaper option. Tampa has too many guys to pay, and I don't think they could afford him.
The only way I can explain this is the Lightning knew that they were going to lose one of their two goalies in the expansion draft.
That is possible. So they're going to put
and wanted to get rid of one of them.
Right. So Budai is going to be expansion trade bait, which I don't think. I don't know if anybody will pick him up, but whatever.
Unless Vasilevsky, that's the other name, right? I don't know if he needs to be protected or not.
Well, I think
because
he
might not have enough NHL service under his belt.
No, he should have enough, but who knows?
So I don't know the rules on that.
It's a weird trade because both teams are kind of out of the playoff picture, but they both think they're still going to make it, right? So I
think Tampa's given up. I don't know if I'm Jonathan Quick. I don't know if I'm happy about this because I've been injured all season.
Yeah.
Now I'm finally back, and now you go and acquire this other guy.
I know, and
Kings. I think weren't Quick and Bishop teammates on Team USA?
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not really clear on this. I'm assuming that the Kings aren't going to resign Bishop at the end of the season. That's my assumption.
Me too.
And this trade, if the Kings really wanted Ben Bishop, would have made so much more sense if it happened in October after Quick got injured.
A lot of these trades would make sense if they happen in October. As we're going to go through the whole board here, you're going to see, I don't understand the point of all this. Anyways, so the next trade is the guy that everybody knew was going to get traded, Martin Hanzal. Mm-hmm. He got traded with Ryan White for basically a whole bevy of draft picks, including a first-round pick, which is pretty much the only first-round pick that moved in all this business today and yesterday and the day before. Mm-hmm. So they gave a first, a second, a conditional fourth, a player, and they got Hanzal, White, and a pick. It's a steep price to pay for Martin Hanzal because, he's okay. I don't know what they think they're going to do with him. Minnesota's a really good team. I don't think they needed Martin Hanzal to put them over the top, but I guess they feel they did. So
yeah, I like this trade for Arizona actually because they weren't going anywhere. They didn't need Martin Hanzal. They got a bunch of picks, as you said.
Yeah, me too. I like it for Arizona.
Minnesota could finish first overall in the NHL, so that first round pick is really, it's a very late first round pick.
But Arizona is the team, what I was going to tell you, I don't think they know what they're doing because they basically gave up. They got a bevy of picks for Hanzal. And then the rest of the day today, they didn't trade Verbata. Why didn't you trade Verbata for some picks?
Or why didn't they trade Shane Doan?
Well, Shane Doan, maybe they have some loyalty for the guy. He's been with their organization forever. Maybe they want to respect that. But I don't understand why Radim Verbata didn't move. I would have traded him for anything. They don't need the guy. He's 35 years old. They're going nowhere. They need as many picks as they can get.
What's interesting is the day after Minnesota and Arizona made this trade, the two of them made another trade where the Coyotes got Timu
Putin,
and the Wild got future consideration. So why did they just include those guys in the original trade?
Can you imagine the conversation with the GMs? They have this deal, and then the Minnesota GM calls up and he's like, you know what? I forgot. I really wanted to give you this guy also. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll take him. We'll just give you I don't know, future considerations. What is future considerations anyways?
No one knows. It could be cash. It could be like a bag of pucks.
Oh God.
You never know.
Yeah. So then the Leafs jumped in on the action and they got Brian Boyle for a prospect and a second round pick, which is
not to be confused with Dan Boyle, by the way.
A decent, it's a pretty steep price to play for Brian Boyle. Brian Boyle is a useful player. He's huge. He can take faceoffs. He has tons of playoffs experience, with the Rangers and the Lightning. And the Leafs are battling for that playoff spot. One day they're in, the next day they're out. It's going to probably go down to the end of the year. And he's the right fit for them for this year. This is the first time in so many years where the Leafs are actually kind of buyers. So good for them on that. And I think it was a good acquisition. I mean, the second round pick, I think it's probably worth it for them.
I don't understand why the Leafs are buyers. I live in Toronto, and so I interact with a lot of Leaf fans, and they actually are they live and die with every goal that the Leafs score. But I mean, if I'm a Leaf fan, I'd rather not make the playoffs, still get like a semi decent high pick, not high pick, but higher pick,
and keep loading up
because they're not going to win the cup this year if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, but I think they're figuring that, you know what, they have a good nucleus. They're almost there at the playoff spot. Why not give these guys some playoff experience? And there's also a financial factor, you know, where the ownership might want to have some playoff games because they make a lot of money.
That's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
So then the Habs got in on the action. Traded Greg Pateryn for Jordy Ben. They also threw in a draft pick, did the Canadians. And Jordy Ben started his Habs career last night against Columbus and looked really good. His beard is amazing.
Well, I was going to say, you got Jordy Ben and his beard for Pateryn and a pick.
The beard is huge. I mean, it's like a huge factor. The playoff beard's like already there. You know, like, can you imagine the Habs go on like some kind of long playoff run? What his beard's going to look like?
I think
it's going to be ZZ Top style. It's going to be crazy. It's already like that.
And by the way, you know, only because I read something online about a week ago did I know that Greg Pateryn was going to be traded. I don't know if you heard about the story where Greg Pateryn's girlfriend or wife said something about Therrien and then said something about Julien. And so basically Pateryn was done with the Canadians.
Yeah.
So anything that they got for him was basically icing on the cake because he wasn't going to play with the Habs anyway.
Let me tell you something. Everybody's crying in Montreal about, I mean, I think it's a steal for the Canadians. Jordy Ben is an NHL defenseman. He has 300 games in the league. He's a legit NHL player, and Greg Pateryn is a fringe player. He's a 7th or 6th defenseman at best. And people are like, oh, he didn't get treated fairly, and, you know, he'll go on and he'll have a good career with someone else. He just needs another chance. You know, everybody said the same thing about Rafael Diaz. Rafael Diaz is like, I don't know where he is. He's already been on 6 different teams since the Habs traded him. All the Habs fans said the same thing about, do you remember Yuri Sikak?
Oh, yeah. Didn't they get Devontae Smith-Pelly?
He was supposed to be our savior, Yuri Sikak. You know, when we traded him, people wanted to have a revolt. How could the Habs have given up on him?
Well, I didn't like Smith-Pelly. He was another one of those grinders that gets you 3 points a season.
No. The point is not what we got for him, but everyone was crying that Sikak was like not treated right here, and the coach screwed him up, and they didn't give him a proper chance. I don't think this guy's in the league right now. He's already on his 5th organization probably. Right? So Greg Pateryn, it's the same thing with Jared Tenorti. They gave up on him. The guy's out of hockey now, right? Greg Pateryn is what he is, and the Habs got a good player.
He was expendable. And now, maybe in the summer, Jordy can call his brother, Jamie, and say, hey, why don't you join me on the Canadians?
But is Jamie a free agent?
No, but I'm just saying one day.
Okay, good. The next trade on the list is... the Senators acquired Alex Burrows for Jonathan Dahlen.
I actually like this trade for the Senators.
Really?
I do. I think Alex Burrows is an underrated player. I mean, he's not going to get 50 goals or 40 goals or anything like that, but he's a guy you want to have on your team.
Yeah. And they re-signed him for 2 years.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they signed him right after they acquired him. They signed him to a 2-year extension.
So even better.
So the Senators are clearly trying to gear up for the playoffs. Burrows is a playoff player. They gave from all accounts, a pretty good prospect. The guy has good numbers in the Swedish league. So, I mean, you know, sometimes you have to give something to get something. So I think the Senators, you know, look, the Senators are going for it, and they tried to improve their team.
Is Jonathan Dahlen related to Alf or Shell?
I don't know. Probably not.
Okay.
The big trade bait that was out there was Kevin Shattenkirk. So
this was the most important trade of the whole season, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah, and the Capitals gave up a couple of prospects, a 1st-round pick, which is huge, and a 2nd-round pick conditional to get Shattenkirk and another prospect. And he was by far the best player that was available. I mean, not counting Duchesne, who I don't think really was available. Like we both.
But he
know.
was the best player that was actually dealt.
Yeah. And the Capitals were probably the best team in the league already, and they got better. So
the Capitals, now Shattenkirk, as you know, is a free agent at the end of the season, and they've got a bunch of other guys on their roster who are also free agents at the end of the season. So they're basically saying, we're all in for this season.
Yeah.
The roster could look completely different next year. And so Washington is going for broke. The thing is, as well as I do, the Capitals' history. First of all, they've never won a cup. They've only been to the finals once, and I think they lost in 4 straight then when they went there.
Yeah, that's when they had Olaf Kolzig.
Right, and
Joey Juneau.
I forget who they played against. Was it Detroit that they lost to?
I think so.
In any case, so if you look at history tells us that this isn't going to help the Capitals.
Well, there's 2 words to describe the Capitals franchise, and you know what those words are. Choking dogs.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, if I'm just looking at the trade as, in a bubble,
yeah,
you get Kevin Shattenkirk.
It's great.
It's a good trade.
It's great.
And if they can re-sign him somehow, that's even better.
We'll see what they do. They're not so worried right now about the offseason, like you said. They really are gearing up for a long playoff run.
Yeah.
Rangers got Brendan Smith for a couple of draft picks. That's just defensive depth. I really have nothing to say about it.
Neither do
I. Senators also got Victor Stahlberg for a draft pick. I don't even know if he's going to really play for them or have much of an impact, so nothing much to say there either.
I mean, but this shows that the Senators, along with the Burrows trade, they're buyers, which I mean, yes, they're in a playoff spot, but
barely.
I think they think more highly of their team than I do, and maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, they think very highly of their team. Are you kidding me?
I don't see the Senators doing much damage in the playoffs unless they play the Canadiens, which they won't.
Well, the Canadiens and Senators have a kind of good rivalry right now, and the Canadiens do not play well against them. So.
No, I'm saying if the Senators play Montreal, they could win that easily.
Yeah,
but I don't think the matchups are going to line up that way.
No, I agree. So the Blackhawks reacquired Johnny Oduya for a prospect and a 4th-round pick, so it's totally rental. I mean, Oduya won the cup with the Blackhawks, one of the cups, and
I think he won 2 maybe.
Yeah, and he's definitely serviceable. He's slowed down a lot, but I mean, like every GM, they're looking for depth, right? And I mean, he'll provide whatever he plays, 5th, 6th, 7th defenseman. I'm sure the Blackhawks are gearing. You know what it is. You know how it is, right? Injuries are a huge part of the playoffs. You need to have guys ready to step in, and
you need to have extra guys.
Oduya can do that. Yeah,
all these healthy scratches, and then by the end of the season, there are no healthy scratches.
Yeah, exactly.
By the end of the playoffs.
The last trade before we got to the actual deadline day. Can you imagine all these are before the deadline day?
Yeah.
The Canadiens finally traded David Desharnais.
And this trade surprised me because I can't recall a time when the Canadiens traded a French-Canadian person and didn't get a French-Canadian person in return.
It's very rare. But times are changing. I mean, there's basically one French-Canadian player on the Habs right now that's Danault. And, I think that bodes well for Charles Hudon because they'll probably have to call him up soon because of that.
So by the way, this Davidson trade, along with the Ben trade, that the Canadiens
gives them tons of defensemen now,
right? and size too.
Yeah, well, Davidson, I mean, all reports are that he's a pretty good player. He has a big shot. The scouting report on him is very, very positive. But again, he's coming in as the 6th or 7th defenseman, which is fine. That's what they need, right? And I think they're just trying to build up the depth, and whether he gets in the lineup or not, we'll see, right? But look, Desharnais was finished here. He was a healthy scratch. He was injured, then he was a healthy scratch. He hasn't been productive for 3 years. I replied to someone on Facebook yesterday who commented about Desharnais, and I'll say the same thing what I said on Facebook. I have tons of respect for David Desharnais. He's a player that is tiny, and every single level of his hockey career, he was told he's too small. And every single level, he proved those people wrong. And eventually, he made it to the NHL, made a lot of money playing in the NHL, signed a contract, was a regular, had productive years. He made a career, and you can't take that away from him. I have tons of respect for him, tons of perseverance. He was the whipping boy here for way too many years. He was blamed for everything that ailed the Canadiens was David Desharnais' fault, right? No matter what, it was all boiling down to Desharnais, which was totally unfair because he took way too much blame when the team was doing bad. And good luck to him. I hope he does well in Edmonton. I don't think he will. I think his career's finished, but good luck to him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. He's a serviceable player.
Yeah.
He can play on a team's third or fourth line.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to play on the Canadiens, so there's no point in having him on the roster.
Well, the Habs made everything they did today and yesterday is all about getting bigger. So they've got rid of their small guys and got bigger guys. So
yeah.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
The Sharks got Jannik Hansen from the Canucks for a player and a draft pick. What was interesting, I read that there was a few teams interested in Jannik Hansen, but he has a no movement clause, and he refused to go to certain teams. He only wanted to stay out west. So he refused a trade to a bunch of East Coast teams, including the Habs. In one report, the Habs said they were interested in him. He said he wouldn't go there.
I heard that he had every Canadian team on his list of no trade.
He didn't want to go to any of them. And he only wanted to stay in the West, so they dealt him to the Sharks. And Jannik Hansen is actually a good player.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Canucks would trade him away.
I guess UFA, and they're trying to get something for him, right? This is the kind of deal where this is a Vincent D'Anfous situation where they traded him, and in the off season he's going to re-sign back with Vancouver.
He might.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if Ben Bishop re-signs back with Tampa Bay, that answers that question. I don't think it's going to happen.
No. Yeah, you're right. Things got busy really early this morning. The Canadiens acquired Steve Ott for a 6th-round pick.
Before I even woke up.
Now, look, they basically got him for free. A 6th-round pick is basically getting him for free. So it's not the point of what they traded for him. They acquired him. But, I don't think he's going to be a regular. I don't know if he's going to play every game. It's ridiculous that they have Steve Ott and Andrew Shaw and Brendan Gallagher.
It's a photocopy of Andrew Shaw.
Talk about agitators. I mean, Steve Ott's the ultimate.
Didn't a year ago or a year and a half ago, Steve Ott say something about the Canadiens that they're really just Carey Price and that's it?
Well, they interviewed him today on the radio and they played him that clip and they joked about it. He said he's very proud to be on the Canadiens. He's happy to be on the original 6 team. He loves playing in Montreal every time they come here. It's a great atmosphere and loves the fans, and he's looking forward to it, which is what they all say. But, I mean, look, the guy's a veteran. He's near the end of his career. We'll see what he does,
I mean, he can't be in the lineup on the same day as Andrew Shaw. If both of them are in the lineup at the same time, that's just, to me, not a good idea.
It's going to be a lot of trouble.
Well, I mean, it's like you're already a deficient team when it comes to goal scoring. You're going to put both these guys in the lineup?
Well, the Habs made a lot of moves today, but none of them addressed the goal scoring. So.
Right. They're a goal scoring challenge team is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And this doesn't help. And having him and Shaw in the lineup at the same time just is like shooting yourself in the foot.
Speaking of goal scoring, the Panthers actually acquired pretty much the only guy today that could score, which is Thomas Vanek, for a prospect and a 3rd-round pick. So they basically got him for next to nothing.
And you notice the Red Wings today and the last couple of days have been stockpiling picks.
Yeah, the Red Wings finally, after 20 years of being buyers, for the first time they're sellers.
They got a pick from the Canadiens.
And they did well. The Red Wings they sold off their guys.
The Rangers.
Yeah.
So yes, the Red Wings have been stockpiling picks the last few days.
Look, do I think Thomas Vanek's good? No, not really. But can he score a few goals here and there? Yeah. He's the kind of player that he's completely invisible during a game. You're like, where the hell's Thomas Vanek? He didn't even show up, and the next thing you know, he scores a goal.
He's a regular season player, though. I don't think he's ever had a good playoffs that I recall.
Rarely been in the playoffs. So
there you go.
Yeah. The Canadiens continued their stockpiling of humongous players by trading a 4th-round conditional pick to the Kings for Dwight King, which is shocking. Dwight King is a kind of giant. So again, they're just getting 3rd and 4th line guys, depth players. They have tons there. They have tons of 4th line players right now, and he's huge. So I don't know what he's going to do for them, but we'll see.
All the guys they acquired in the last few days are all big.
Yeah.
And the charter flight might not be able to take off.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Because there's going to be extra weight on the plane.
I think Dwight King is a good player, so it was a good acquisition. I think we can jump to the last trade, which was they acquired this guy. They traded Sven Andrighetto, and they
Another
got
small player. So they traded their two smallest players in Andrighetto and Desharnais.
yeah, and they got this guy Andreas Martinson, who's also like a giant. He's 6'3", 220. He's huge. So I mean, these guys are not skilled. They don't put up a lot of points, but the little guys weren't putting up points either. So they might as well try to get a little bit bigger. So we'll see how many of. So basically, for the Canadians, out is Patterin, Desharnais, and Andrighetto. In is Jordy Ben, Brandon Davidson, Steve Ott, Dwight King, and Andreas Martinson. So they have two more guys than they had before. So I mean, I don't know how they're going to fit all these guys into the lineup. They probably won't all fit into the lineup. It could mean the end for guys like Brian Flynn, or maybe Michael McCarron is going to go back down to the AHL.
I kind of like Brian Flynn.
Me too, but I mean, I don't know how he's going to fit in with all these guys. Like I'm not sure.
They have like 9 guys who can play on the third and fourth line, but they only need 6.
Exactly. So but look, they're at the time of year. He said it in the press conference today, Bergevin. There's no limit on the roster anymore. They can have as many guys as they want. So they're going to have guys sitting out. It'll be up to the coach to decide what to do with them.
There are a few other trades I want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm keep going. I'm going to keep going. So the Kings acquired Jerome McGinley for a 4th round pick.
Now that trade makes sense that Colorado traded him away.
Yeah.
Not Matt Duchene or Gabriel Landeskog.
Yeah, but I mean Jerome McGinley. He's 39 years old.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
he can skate. Maybe he'll help them.
This is his last run.
Yeah, he'll help last run. They're not even for sure in the playoffs, but they think he's going to score a couple of goals. Maybe that'll make the difference, right?
Well, they didn't give up anything really to get him, so.
Yeah. The Devils traded Kyle Quincy for basically nobody to the Blue Jackets. He's just a depth defenseman, another one, so that's nothing.
I want to back up one trade. This trade means nothing to you, but I want to talk about it.
Sure.
The Lightning acquired goalie Mike McKenna.
Yeah.
For another goalie, Adam Wilcox.
I skipped that trade because I didn't even know who these guys were.
Right. Well, interestingly enough, I actually volunteered at the NHL draft, I don't know, 2002, I think, when it was in Toronto, long time ago.
Right.
Maybe even before that.
Yeah.
And one of the players picked in that draft, I don't even remember what round, was Mike McKenna.
Oh, wow.
Why am I mentioning this? I was there volunteering with a friend of mine, Sylvan. You know Sylvan.
Sure, yeah.
And so basically each of us were assigned a certain team.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that it was Nashville that drafted Mike McKenna. I could be wrong about this. And so Sylvan was assigned Nashville.
Right.
And so Sylvan had to take Mike McKenna
all around,
from the stage where he gets his jersey before the player goes to he goes to the table where the team shakes his hand and everything. But then the player has to go through a bunch of different places. After they're picked, they have their photo taken. Then they go to like a media scrum. This is basically what we had to do as volunteers.
Right.
And the player doesn't know where he's going. That's why there had to be somebody like me or Sylvan taking them around. Anyway, there were like 30 of us volunteering, obviously, because there's 30 picks per round. Sylvan ended up escorting Mike McKenna around. And actually, they became friends and they exchanged contact info. And they've stayed in touch all these years.
Amazing.
And so when McKenna was playing like NCAA games, I think in Vermont or somewhere near there, Sylvan would drive from Montreal to go see him play.
Incredible.
So I haven't spoken to Sylvan in a while, but I just wanted to talk about this trade only because of that.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically like a fringe player, but it's cool that it's a cool story. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So the next thing is Mark Streit got traded to the Lightning for Valtteri Filppula and a bunch of picks. So the Flyers basically unloaded Streit. They didn't want him, and the Lightning, we thought, wanted him. He stayed on their team for about 45 minutes before they flipped him to the Penguins. So the Penguins actually in the end got Streit, which is fine. I mean, again, a depth defenseman. He's old, but Streit can run a power play. He still has a big shot. He's a smart player.
I liked him when he was on Montreal.
Yeah, I liked him too, and I think he'll do well in Pittsburgh. They'll shield him. He'll play a role. He'll do what he has to do, and that'll be that. P.A. Parento got traded again. I think it's his 5th team in 4 years, so he's on the Predators now.
Yeah,
whatever.
And he'll be on a different team next year.
Yeah, he will be. And
he might be on Las Vegas.
Yeah, you're
he
right.
could be their number one center.
He'll be their he'll be their captain maybe. Or Mark Streit will be. So the big weird trade, not weird because it was rumored his name was out there, was Curtis Lazar got traded to the Flames.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I thought the Senators were very high on this guy.
Yeah.
And he, again, another young player, and the Senators aren't sellers, they're buyers.
But this was more of a hockey trade. I think they just they got another prospect back, they got a pick, and it was, I think it's about hopefully Curtis Lazar can get a fresh start. I mean, I loved him when he was on Team Canada in the juniors. He seemed to have a lot of potential. He was kind of like the jack of all trades. He can fill in kind of any role. And I was shocked to see that he only had 1 point this whole year, which is pretty crazy. So hopefully he'll get a fresh start in Calgary because I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
The Leafs acquired Eric Fair, who was basically already on waivers. So,
and Steve Oleski and a 4th round pick for Frank Corrado.
Have you heard of Frank Corrado?
I think I might have heard the name once.
Eric Fair is basically a corpse, so I don't know what the Leafs are going to do with him, but whatever. And the Bruins traded for Drew Stafford, who I actually like. I always thought he's a good player. He's slow, but he can score goals, and if they put him in the right position, the Bruins, I think they can get something out of Drew Stafford. And they basically got him for free, a sixth round pick, so it's
right.
It's nothing. And then that's it. I mean, the rest of the deals are like, a bunch of minor leaguers. If you want to talk about Reese Scarlett for Shane Harper, we can do that. But
I've never heard of them. I have heard of Laurie Korpikoski.
Yeah.
Who the Blue Jackets acquired from Dallas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that I've heard his name and I haven't heard of Dylan Hetherington, who they gave up. Yeah. So, to me, that's a win for the Blue Jackets.
Okay, so I have a couple of things that I wanted to point out. One thing. It kind of sums up the whole day. Like we said, no one of consequence was really traded. So a friend of the show, Arash Madani, tweeted today, of the 33 players dealt since 10:30 a.m. today, 17 have been waived at some point in this NHL season.
So that means you could have got him for free.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of tells you what you need to know about the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the major deals happened before, like yesterday or the day before or the day before that.
Yeah. I'm glad that Colorado didn't trade Duchesne or Landeskog, like you've been saying for the last couple of weeks whenever we talked about the potential trades. It didn't make sense for them to trade them.
No, it didn't.
Unless they got like a king's ransom, which obviously they were never going to get because no one wanted to give it to them. So, good for them. They can still rebuild. I mean, Landeskog and Duchesne and McKinnon, those are building blocks for a good team.
And they're going to get a high pick this year.
Right. And, if their goalie stays healthy, he's good, right? So they shouldn't be as bad as they are. I don't know if they've given up, whatever. I don't know what's going on.
I think Patrick Roy resigning has hurt them more than they thought it was going to.
Well, it's kind of indicative of like whatever's going on behind the scenes. Patrick Roy said some stuff about the organization that he didn't agree with the way they were going and stuff. So, I mean, clearly there's stuff going on behind the scenes there that's not good, right? And that's why the team is in such disarray. But I mean, Nathan McKinnon, 29 other NHL teams he'd still be the best player on their team, other than like Pittsburgh or Washington,
Right.
Pretty much.
Or maybe Toronto and Winnipeg and Edmonton.
Yeah. I mean, Nathan McKinnon is incredible. Like this guy's a superstar waiting to happen.
Yeah.
So that sums up the trade deadline, and we'll see where the teams go from here. We have, about 20 games left for everybody, and it should be an interesting stretch run.
Let me just say one last thing. So all these teams make all these trades thinking it's going to put them over the top.
Never does.
Well, there's only one team that's going to actually have done anything good.
Right.
Because there's only one team that's going to win the Stanley Cup. So all the other teams that made deals today, other than the one that wins the Cup, it was basically for naught.
But look at the Stanley Cup winners. Very, very rarely do the teams that win the Cup have acquired guys that have helped them. The Kings made a good move a few years ago when they got Gaborik because that really propelled them,
Right. I mean, when Chicago won their 3 Cups, they were already a good team before the trade deadline.
And Chicago acquired a bunch of guys last year thinking it was going to make them better, and they made them worse. Dale Weiss made them worse.
Is Dale Weiss on Philadelphia now?
Yes, and Mark, our Philly correspondent, wishes he was like packed away and traded for nothing.
And where's Fleischman?
Not even sure if he's in the league. Couldn't even skate, that guy.
I mean, they were decent on the Habs
at the beginning. They did okay. The Habs did great by trading them. So they knew that the pro scouts of the Habs finally did something right. They traded the guys that they knew weren't good. So
they got something because they were both going to be free agents. They got something for them, and it didn't cost them much to sign Fleischman.
Yeah. So I mean, only one of the real contenders made a huge move, and that's Shattenkirk. And we'll see if like we said, if any team has something to prove, it's the Washington Capitals.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll speak to you on the next regular episode, where we'll kind of go over, maybe see how some of these trades are working out and talk about the rest of the world of sports.
Okay. Thanks for a great show.
All right.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.